Hello everyone, I'm Stephanie Hernandez with the Clean Energy Solutions Center and welcome to today's webinar, which is hosted by the Solutions Center in partnership with the United Nations Foundation's Energy Access Practitioner Network. Today's webinar is focused on universal energy access by 2020 in Rwanda, the role of government, multilateral, and private sector stakeholder engagement to achieve scale. Before we begin, I'll go over some of the webinar's features. For audio, you have the option to either listen through your computer or over the telephone. If you choose to listen through the computer, please select the mic and speakers option in the audio pane. Doing so will eliminate the possibility of feedback and echo. If you choose to dial in by phone, please select the telephone option, and a box on the right side will display the telephone number and audio pin you should use to dial in. If anyone's having any difficulties with the webinar, you can contact the number on the screen right there. It's GoToWebinar's Help Desk, and it's 888-259-3826. If you would like to ask a question during the webinar, and we encourage that you do, please use the questions pane where you can type that in. If you're having difficulty viewing the materials through the webinar portal, you will find PDF copies of the presentation at cleanenergysolutions.org/training. Also, an audio recording and the presentations will be posted to the Solutions Center training page within a few days of the broadcast, and they'll be added to the Solutions Center YouTube channel, where you can find other informative webinars as well as video interviews with thought leaders on clean energy policy topics. Finally, one important note of mention before we begin our presentation is that the Clean Energy Solutions Center does not endorse or recommend specific products or services. Information provided in this webinar is featured in the Solutions Center's resource library as one of many best practices, resources reviewed and selected by technical experts. Today's webinar is centered around the presentations from our guest panelists. We have Robert Nyamvumba, Claire Nelson, Vivek Kandel, Godfrey Odihambo, and Emery Fastinakos. They have all joined us to discuss the different roles and coordination among government, multilateral, and private sector stakeholders in helping meet government's vision of scaling energy access in the country, focusing on the specific role of distributed energy solutions. Before we jump into the presentations, I'll provide a brief overview of the Clean Energy Solutions Center, and Yasmin Abloy-Ruff from the United Nations Foundation will provide an overview of the Energy Access Practitioner Network. Then following the panelists' presentations, we'll have a question and answer session where the panelists will address questions submitted by the audience. And at the end of the webinar, you will be automatically prompted to fill out a brief survey. So thank you in advance for taking a moment to respond. The Solutions Center was launched in 2011 under the Clean Energy Ministerial. The Clean Energy Ministerial is a high-level global forum to promote policies and programs that advance clean energy technology, to share lessons learned and best practices, and to encourage the transition to a global clean energy economy. 24 countries and the European Commission are members, covering 90% of clean energy investment and 70% of global greenhouse gas emissions. This webinar is provided by the Clean Energy Solutions Center, which focuses on helping government policymakers design and adopt policies and programs that support the development of clean energy technologies. This is accomplished through support in crafting and implementing policies related to energy access, no-cost expert policy assistance, and peer-to-peer learning and training tools such as this webinar. The Clean Energy Solutions Center is co-sponsored by the governments of Australia, Sweden, the United States, with in-kind support from the governments of Mexico and Canada. The Solutions Center provides several clean energy policy programs and services, including a team of over 60 global experts that can provide remote in-person technical assistance to governments and government-supported institutions, no-cost virtual webinar trainings on a variety of clean energy topics, partnership building with development agencies and regional and global organizations to deliver support, an online library containing over 5,500 clean energy policy-related publications, tools, videos, and other resources. Our primary audience is made up of energy policymakers and analysts from governments and technical organizations in all countries, but we also strive to engage with the private sector, NGOs, and civil society. The Solutions Center is an international initiative that works with more than 35 international partners across its suite of different programs. Several of the partners are listed above and include research organizations like IRENA and the IEA, programs like SE4All, and regionally focused entities such as the ECOWAS Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. A marquee feature that the Solutions Center provides is the no-cost expert policy assistance known as AskanExpert. The AskanExpert service matches policymakers with one of more than 60 global experts selected as authoritative leaders on specific clean energy finance and policy topics. For example, in the area of enterprise development, we are very pleased to have Ellen Morris, President and Founder of Sustainable Energy Solutions, serving as one of our experts. If you have a need for policy assistance in enterprise development or any other clean energy sector, we encourage you to use this valuable service. Again, the assistance is provided free of charge, and if you have any questions for our experts, please submit it through our simple online form at cleanenergysolutions.org/expert. We also invite you to spread the word about this service to those in your networks and organizations. Now, before we begin, I'd like to provide brief introductions. For today's webinar, it is co-moderated by Yasmin Irboy-Ruff, who is a Senior Officer at UN Foundation's Energy and Climate Team. Our first panelist today will be Robert Nyamvumba, who is the Energy Division Manager at the Ministry of Infrastructure in Republic of Rwanda. Following Robert, we will hear from Claire Nelson, who is the Rwanda Power Africa Lead at USAID. Next, we will hear from Vivek Tandel, who's a Scaling Up Off-Grid Energy Program Manager for Energy for Impact in Rwanda. Vivek, we will hear from Godfrey Odhiambo, who is the Managing Director in Rwanda at Off-Grid Electric. And our final panelist today is Amore Fastanako, who is Head of Strategy at VBOX. Before we get into the panelist presentations, we will turn things over to Yasmin at the UNF, and she will kick us off. Yasmin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Good morning and good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you hear me okay and see the slides?
Yes, looks great. Sounds good.
Perfect. Once again, everybody, thank you for joining us for this excellent webinar. I'm really looking forward to both the presentations and the discussion that will take place with great in-country representation, and we'll be discussing the government's plans for rural electrification in Rwanda and the role of different stakeholders towards achieving that goal. Before we get started, I just want to provide a very brief introduction to us at the United Nations Foundation and the Energy Access Practitioner Network. Many of our network members and partners have heard many of us here at the UN Foundation go through this, so I'm not going to take too much time. But for anybody who might be joining us for the first time, obviously we have an energy access program here at the United Nations Foundation. Part of that is our Energy Access Practitioner Network, which is an initiative of the UN Foundation that supports the development of a thriving global distributed energy sector as a very important contribution towards sustainable energy for all and SDG 7. We do this by connecting our over 2,500 members to industry insights as well as resources by helping create powerful partnerships. As the largest network of its kind, the Practitioner Network provides an unparalleled platform for understanding and addressing the challenges and opportunities faced in the distributed energy sector at large. And our webinars, which we try to do monthly with our colleagues at the Clean Energy Solutions Center, is one of the ways in which we try to provide peer-to-peer learning and training to our members and partners worldwide. This particular webinar is part of our country-focused webinar series, and we'll be looking at Rwanda in particular. We have over 130 practitioner network members operating in Rwanda, and 3 of them will be presenting today, so we're very much looking forward to that. And please, everybody, keep in mind, panelists as well as audience alike, that we will be live tweeting the webinar at Energy Access PN, so please join the conversation using the hashtag PN webinar. Just a very quick look into Rwanda before we get started. Rwanda is included in the Sustainable Energy for All partnerships, large gap countries, which are 20 countries with the lowest electrification rates. And here you can see how Rwanda compares to some of the other large cap countries, these numbers may be a little bit different than what the ministry has currently. They're based on 2012 data, I believe, but it gives a good understanding of the issue that we'll be discussing today. However, with the recent RISE report, Regulatory Indicators for Sustainable Energy, Rwanda actually has pretty good scores, both in terms of the officially approved electrification plan, as well as the frameworks for grid electrification, mini-grids, and standalone systems, all of which we'll be discussing today. With that, here is how you can join us or reach us if you need to. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Robert from the Ministry of Infrastructure.
Great, thank you so much, Yasmin. Robert, the floor is yours. Robert, it looks like your microphone is still on mute. If you click the green button with a white microphone, there. Oh, it looks like the audio. We'll just give Robert another second to reconnect to the audio. One moment, please. Hi, Robert. Looks like you're back online. Can you hear us all right?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Robert, we can hear you just fine. Can you hear us?
Well, thank you. Should I go on?
Robert, we can hear you just fine. If you're able to hear us, pull up your PowerPoint presentation and we can begin the slideshow.
I can hear you.
Wonderful. We're going to initiate the screen share application again. Can you please select the pop-up on your screen that says to show your screen?
Yes, please.
All right, select, perfect. All right, begin whenever you're ready, Robert. That looks great.
Well, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. All right, we're going to try to come back to Robert in a little bit. Next, we'll go to Claire Nelson at USAID. Hi, everybody. Can you see my slides?
Well,
Yes,
I can see the presentation on the screen.
Yes, Claire, that looks great. Robert, we're going to work on the technical issues. We can't see your presentation right now, so we're going to go ahead and let Claire get started, and we'll come back to you in just a moment. Okay,
all right.
so
shall I go on?
No, we're gonna do Claire's presentation right now, and then we'll come back to yours. All right, go ahead, Claire.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Stephanie and Yasmin, for the welcome, and good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be participating in this webinar.
Hello, shall I go on? Are you ready?
No, Robert, we're going to let Claire go ahead. Are you able to hear us? All right, Claire, let's try again.
Okay. Yeah, just thanking you guys for inviting me onto the webinar on this topic. It's great to be here and to be joined by our Power Africa partners, Oxford Electric and DBOX as well, and as well as Robert from the ministry. I hope he's able to get his slides working. As you both mentioned, I'm leading Power Africa's program here in Rwanda for USAID. The program, Power Africa itself, started in 2013, and it kicked off in Rwanda in 2015. And myself, I've been here for about 6 months leading the program. So yeah, I'm just going to take the next few minutes to walk everybody through Power Africa as a whole and what we're doing here in Rwanda to help Rwanda achieve its universal energy access goals by 2020. So as many of you may know, Power Africa was started in 2013 with the goal of doubling access to electricity in Rwanda. Since the initiative was launched, we have been measuring our progress against 2 major targets. The first is to increase the supply of electricity across the continent by 30,000 megawatts, and also to increase access to electricity by 60 million new connections, households and businesses, in just over 15 years. Power Africa uses quite an innovative partnership model for the U.S. government. Everything we do really is based on partnerships. Firstly, it's a collaboration of 12 different government agencies, U.S. government agencies, I should say. The program sits within USAID, but we work closely with 11 different agencies, including USTDA and OPIC and the State Department, and they provide resources and expertise in all areas across the energy sector. We also work closely with many other development partners and multilateral financial institutions such as the African Development Bank and the UN and the Sustainable Energy for All initiative. And in every country that we are based in, we focus on creating strong partnerships with the local government, with all the private companies in the power sector, other development partners, civil society, and investors, of course, to work with them directly to unlock opportunities for growth in the energy sector and to meet the government and our targets. Nothing really can be achieved by acting alone on this. So this is why we focus on the partnership model and using and tapping into the vast pool of expertise that we have within the U.S. government and within our partners around the world to provide our support. Power Africa focuses on large-scale energy projects, but we also focus quite closely on off-grid solutions. In 2014, we launched a sub-initiative, which is increasing access to electricity. A lot of that is through off-grid, decentralized energy solutions, as well as expansion of the grid. So far, our work has bring 10.6 million homes and businesses electricity since 2014, and we have already made partnerships with 60 companies and investors who have pledged over $1 billion of investment. So these partnerships and our programs focus really on working with our partner governments and companies to help increase access to electricity. And we really focus on 2 main things. One is creating a positive enabling environment for the growth of the sector. So that means working with government closely to figure out how to integrate off-grid solutions into their energy policy and regulatory frameworks. And the second major focus is local financial institutions, capital that off-grid companies need to grow their businesses, and also to provide technical assistance to these financial institutions to make sure they become comfortable with lending to these companies and helping them access these. So speaking about Rwanda more specifically, as I mentioned, Power Africa has been here since 2015. We've been growing the program since then, and everything we do here really is designed to help the government meet their 2018 and 2020 access targets, which is very important. And we, sorry, I think
it sounds like we have some other people on the line. If you are on the line and not presenting right now, can you please mute your microphone or your telephone? It's causing a little bit of feedback. Thank you.
That sounds better. So yeah, as I was saying, in Rwanda, we have designed our program to all around helping the government meet its energy access targets. So by mid-2018, the government targets 70% electricity access, and by 2020, universal access. Those years are coming quickly, so we're doing everything we can to make sure that the environment is there to help achieve those targets, mainly through the private sector and their growth. So we've been focused on increasing access to finance, and we've been working with the local banks and providing technical assistance and helping them get more comfortable putting in the necessary capital into the sector. And we also work quite closely with the Ministry of Infrastructure, with the utility and the regulator to help design policies and regulations to promote off-grid electrification. And last year we were quite closely involved in crafting the rural electrification strategy, which is sort of the keystone document for this sector and is sort of leading the market's growth. And we're also involved in guiding sort of the design of implementation plans underneath that strategy to make sure that you know, they're designed well and can support rapid growth of the sector. And we also have a dedicated off-grid transaction advisor who works directly with the companies, including the ones that are on this webinar, to provide guidance on accessing finance and navigating the policy environment. And we also help them with any kind of technical questions and connecting them with investors and grant-making organizations around the world so that they're able to grow their businesses sustainably. So that's a very broad summary of what we're doing here in Rwanda. We're hoping to grow the program and to continue to help our partners achieve Rwanda's very ambitious targets. If they meet them, that'll be one of the fastest electrification efforts in the world, and we're very happy to be here and to be helping to create the environment that's needed for all the key stakeholders to come together to achieve these targets. So thanks again for having me on, and happy to answer questions at the end. Back to you guys.
Great, thank you so much, Claire. That was wonderful. We are going to go back to Robert really quickly and try to get the connection working there. So Robert, you should see the pop-up on your screen right now. If you can select to share your screen and unmute your microphone, we will see if we can get this to work. Robert, it looks like your microphone is muted. If you go to the upper left-hand corner and click the green button with the white microphone on it, you should be able to unmute.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. That sounds great. Can you, are you able to?
Now you can see my presentation.
We can't right now, but we are going to send the screen share function. Just select the option to show your screen on the computer. You should see it pop up. And we can run your slides for you if that's easier. Why don't we do that? So Robert, I'll pull up your slides right now.
All right. First, I'd like to thank you, and I'm really honored to speak at this practitioner network webinar focusing on scaling energy access in Rwanda. I really appreciate what Claire has presented, but I'll take you through the initiatives of the government of Rwanda after the approval of the strategy back 2016 in April, and the initiatives that the government has that is undertaking, and also under Rwanda Sustainable Energy for All Action Agenda, that among other initiatives, the country is striving to achieve the Sustainable Development goal to achieve universal access to modern energy services by 2030. Taking you through the presentation, skipping just giving you the highlights on the energy sector status for those of you who do not have or understand the country's context. We've been able to increase the electricity access connections from 6% in 2008 to current 35%. with May current statistics. Mainly the drive to change the strategy was to see how we could now have a policy or strategy that on how to extend the central grid and achieve universal access, but also relying on off-grid technologies. Through that, the government of Rwanda, in good partnership with private sector, has taken a definite stance on solving energy-related issues to match the country's development aspirations. As you have noticed in my presentation, currently there is a positive impact made through major reforms in the energy sector that has enabled a conducive environment for power, business-led private sector, and as such, we've been able at least to attract more than now 20 companies in the off-grid market, deploying technologies in rural areas, and at least we believe that we're going to match the set targets to achieve universal access by 2020. The next slide is just to, as I mentioned, the access to electricity has almost tripled, but the target is at least to connect 92% of sector offices connected to electricity, and expected to achieve 100% of mainly health centers, schools, because in the country we have one laptop per child program that is supported by government under the leadership of His Excellency the President Paul Kagame. But to that, I just wanted to give you a context on the access target grid and off-grid areas that have been marked in partnership with private sector. Here we've been planning through the central grid planning aspects, but mapping out all off-grid areas in the entire country. And working with private sector now, we know where the central grid will expand, we know where microgrids will be implemented, and also allow solar service providers also to connect households with solar home systems. I want to go much into details of the work on the grid reliability, but it is evident that under Vision 2020, we towards renewable energy Rwanda, we have focused in our priorities and to ensure universal access to modern energy services, double the global rate of improvement in energy efficiency, double the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix. As we have shared this presentation, I think I'll leave it for participants maybe to come back to me for any question, but I'd like to share with you that the government of Rwanda recognizes the vital role that electricity access plays in accelerating economic development through improving health and standards of living. And as such, the target by June 2018 is achieving 70% and 100% by 2020. The state target to be met, of course, we have a combination of solutions that will focus on income and consumption level that is required instead of traditional connection to the grid that may not be suitable for all households. So we've managed to work on a detailed plan that is most cost effective when it comes to increasing access to electricity through the use of off-grid solutions that have considering a wide range of technologies as basic solar lantern, which we believe that instead of having a lantern, then we could have a solar home system that could charge a phone and a radio, and also upgradable depending on the household or beneficiary's consumption need, also to consider using a TV. So developing this strategy The main objective was to ensure that Rwanda households have access to electricity through the most effective means of by developing programs that will facilitate both the end users to access less costly technologies and increase private sector participation in the provision of these solutions. So you agree with me that with government conducive environment, not only that, but as a country being the among few countries in sub-Saharan Africa that are supporting private businesses, with that partnership, we're going to have access to different mechanisms to be developed and protecting the consumer through establishing standards and carrying out awareness campaigns as among the government obligations. So with the targets of achieving universal access, we also have as a set targets to have an integrated planning as much we bring to the population the basic necessities of having access to electricity. We also consider access to clean and sustainable cooking technologies, where they have to use biogas or LPG and modern cooking stoves. I think through that, the policy, if you look at on our website or African World Bank website, you will see the Rwanda Sustainable Energy for All Action, and the policy objectives that I've mentioned, the primary objectives to achieve the re-education strategy that I mentioned just a few minutes ago, is to ensure that by 2018, most of the population will be having access to electricity, and a range of options from standalone home solar systems through isolated mini-grids and grid connection will be available. So the government still encourages households to access the most appropriate form of electricity based on the income levels, but also to encourage through partnership with private sector and development partners to ensure that advanced technologies in standalone home systems will contribute a major significant role to achieve the access levels that the country has set. So I would like again to commend these joint initiatives of United Nations Foundation, Energy Access Practitioner Network, and the Clean Energy Solutions Center that really has provided excellent platform to highlight the impact of access to date that we have registered in Rwanda and the available opportunities, despite obviously the challenges that we still have low levels of access, but ambitions to scale distributed energy solution in Rwanda is achievable. Maybe I'll leave the participants to ask me any question, and I'm happy to provide any clarification. Thank you so much for the attention.
Excellent, Robert. Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm glad we were able to see that. Just a reminder to everyone, the presentation will be posted online as well. Next, we will begin to go. Godfrey, are you able to share your screen?
Hi, Stephanie. Yeah, I can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you. We can hear you too. Are you able to share your screen to show your presentation?
Yeah, just there. Yeah, I hope it's visible now.
Yes, we can see that. That looks great. Thank you.
So I can begin?
Yes, feel free to begin at any time.
Thank you very much once again. Hello everybody, good afternoon from Kigali. My name is Vivek Raskandel. I work for Energy for Impact and currently managing its CEDA-funded program, which is called Scaling Up Off-Grid Energy in Rwanda, also known as SOJER. Once again, thanks to UN Foundation, Energy Access Practices Network for holding this webinar and for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. Let me begin with a brief introduction of Energy for Impact. It's a UK-based non-profit organization and is working in the region for the Sub-Saharan Africa region for over a decade, helping private sector businesses in terms of helping them expanding and accelerating energy services in the region. Our work emphasizes enterprise support and investment advisory for off-grid energy businesses and projects in the region. We offer a range of supports like businesses, technical financial advisories to energy SMEs and micro enterprises, which has so far resulted into over 14, like almost 50 million people receiving access to energy through range of technologies and the programs that we've been supporting over these years. Yeah, so as I mentioned, our support primarily includes in terms of helping. Well, just a second. My slides, actually, I'm not seeing my own slides. Well, it's been helping companies like overcoming gaps in, like the market gaps, addressing many other market challenges in terms of helping them for the project, like in terms of conceiving projects and throughout the different stages of these off-grid energy programs and projects. Now talking about energy for this program, like before I talk about the SOJER program, let me outline a context in which this program is conceived and talk a bit about how it contributes to the government of Rwanda's long-term energy vision, which goes beyond the program's immediate targets and numbers. As has been discussed presented by Robert, the government of Rwanda has plans to boost investment in energy infrastructures and is prioritizing various energy access programs, which is also mentioned in its rural electrification strategy it unveiled last year. So if you look at the electrification targets, government vision desires almost threefold increment in current electrification rate by 2017 and almost fourfolds by 2020. So this presents us enormous opportunity for the private sector, governments, and civil societies to collaborate and play a vital role in achieving these targets. While other forms of off-grid energy solutions like standalone solar home systems can help move people away from traditional fuel-based systems to cleaner energy forms. However, the systems may not be able to power the business activities and kind of create the productive and commercial activities which this mini-grid system can power. As you see, the government of Rwanda has an explicit expectation that it has placed on private sectors, especially in terms of coming up with mini-grid solutions. As it says in its strategy, that mini-grids will be developed by private sector, with government playing a key role in identifying sites and establishing frameworks which this can become financially viable investment. So mini-grids, as I mentioned, is relatively new initiative in the region and is yet to see a very widespread adaptation and innovation which we have observed in like other standalone systems, smaller off-grid systems. So this requires a new set of kind of new technical skills and business models, new set of entrepreneurs, a new form of partnerships and collaboration to overcome the existing market challenges. So this is where the SOJER program is designed to support in overcoming the existing market gaps by helping developers with the needed technical and financial skills and in terms of identifying the viable business model for mini-grid operations. So the social program, it started in July 2016, last year. So it began in 2016, and we spent over 6 months in terms of to design the kind of activities and the support that we were providing to that we are going to provide to the developers. And this included kind of studies and surveys. So we reached out to a number of developers, floated calls to understand, met them, and we went with a lot of consultation with other stakeholders in the country in terms of designing our support activities. So the program objectives, let me just quickly read out these program objectives, is that, as I mentioned, it's to support the growth of sustained market for off-grid renewable energy in Rwanda by helping the private sector to deliver energy access, to contribute to other social and economic so we also have some targeted goals that we want to meet while helping developers installing and operating these systems. And in the meantime, besides that, we also the program also has goal to attract private sector capital and increase financial institutions' appetite to engage in these relatively new sectors. So because the financial institutions do not have much credit exposure, history of credit exposure, credit lending in this particular mini-grid space. So while doing this, the program intends to have some technology targets and other household connection targets. Like by the end of the program, over 15,000 households will be connected to these mini-grid systems, and this will result to over 10,400 tons of CO2 being avoided. That's like emission being avoided. And we also have job creation targets, which the program will result into creating over 7,000 number of jobs. But at the same time, the program is designed in a way that to address the gender balance in terms of addressing the gender concerns and encouraging women to take the lead role. Actually, this is very encouraging that we already have 5 women developers in our pipeline who is going to be developing these mini-grids. The program
Vivek, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. This is Stephanie. If you could find a stopping point soon, we have 2 more presentations to go through. We're running a little short on time.
You want me to run quickly?
Yes, please. If you could wrap it up pretty soon, that would be wonderful. We're just trying to get to the question and answer session.
Yeah, cool. So the program has 2 components, basically renewable energy small projects. It where we support both the on-grid and off-grid renewable energy-based generation as long as they meet the minimum off-grid household connection requirements. The site can range from 50 kilowatt to 3 megawatts. The project pipelines that we have at the moment ranges from 50 kilowatt to a mini-grid to almost 1.6 megawatt hydro generation, which will also feed to the national grid. And we are supporting around 30 number of pico hydros. The size ranges from 5 to 50 kilowatts. Just to give you a quick overview of the kind of projects that we have. Actually, during the inception phase, which we recently concluded, that involved a thorough due diligence of all the applications and interests we received from the private developers. And during this period, we conducted multiple rounds of discussion with various stakeholders, including MINIFRA, EDCL, the Ministry of Government agencies, the financial institutions, and other partners and stakeholders who are active in this space, like NDEV, USAID, and other multilateral FIs. So based on this discussion and our own analysis of the market, we found out that the grant plays a very critical role during the project life cycle, especially for the pico hydro projects. And seeing that the financing is one of the biggest gaps that all projects face. So under the SOTI program, we aim to increase this financing gap as well as other technical capacity gaps by providing grants to at least 10 pico hydro projects and also to other RESP projects for conducting other, like for carrying out initial studies and other project use cases. So in terms of the cumulative generation through RESP component, the program targets to the program has a target of generating 1.1 megawatt by the end of the program. But all the program support activities will eventually contribute to the generation of 3.5 megawatt. And in terms of household connection, if we combine both the RESP and the Pico hydros, we'll have over 15,500 household connections. Apart from the financing requirements, we have other range of support that we provide through the program. That includes demand design, analysis, site selections, and other studies that needs to be conducted. That also, also in terms of structuring business models, structuring finances, helping developers getting government approval, securing permits, and connecting them to the financing institutions and other investors. So, so there are a number of these kind of these are the as I highlighted in this outlined in the slide. So these are the kind of supports that we'll be providing, which I will as well, if opportunity comes, I'll discuss them later as well. So yeah, this is all the SOLJA program is all about in a nutshell. So thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vivek. We'll now hand things over to Godfrey. And Godfrey, it looks like your microphone is still on mute. Wonderful.
Hi all, how are you?
Wonderful, that looks great.
Okay, in the interest of time, I'm just going to very fast. First of all, thank you all for giving me the opportunity to participate in this webinar. As you told earlier on, my name is Godfrey Odhiambo. I am managing off-grid electric here in Rwanda. Our mandate is very simple, and what we strive to do every day is basically to empower families, businesses, and leaders of tomorrow by providing them clean, reliable, but affordable energy solutions. By way of introduction, Off-Grid Electric is a company that was founded a little under 5 years ago in Tanzania. Since then, it has grown to be one of the leading solar home systems companies in Tanzania. We have a footprint both, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, just recently set up shop in Cote d'Ivoire, and in terms of the overall support from the group, we have an office in the Netherlands and in San Francisco. We are a vertically integrated solar home systems company, which means that we basically have oversight over the entire supply chain of our systems development, designing, all the way to last mile distribution. What we see as a value proposition is that we are very big on putting our customers first. So professional in-home installation is something that we do. We have a 5-year warranty backing all our products. We have a call center that runs 24/7, in-home service support. Our customers being our heroes means that we come up with flexible payment solutions. So lease-to-own payment terms are very flexible, ensuring that our customers are always kept top of mind, regardless of their personal economic circumstances, or when they have a windfall, we help walk them through how they can take advantage of opportunities to own our systems pretty fast. There are, I'm sure you're all going to be aware of the fact that there are some friction areas towards adoption of solar, especially in Africa, and that comes from basically hardware, finances, distribution, and service. And we have our own solution to address some of these challenges and barriers to solar adoption. So in terms of, for example, just ensuring that people have reliable service, we address that by having a call center, and we have people that work in different shifts just to ensure that at any given time our customers can be reached. We have a specialized service fleet just to make sure that our customers are serviced in-house anytime there's an issue. To address the issue of last mile distribution, we are a big believer in leveraging of existing infrastructure, and this we do using the existing businesses, transportation businesses that we have in the market, thereby giving our partners more opportunities to earn extra income, and we also make sure that we reach our customers at their point of need. Making solar accessible to all is obviously one of the biggest challenge, and how we do that is we have a professional sales force who we train and retrain in a sales process that we have really invested so heavily in. And we can see the evidence of the fruits of this particular approach that we're using. Financing, again, is an issue. Remember, we serve most of our customers are people living in rural areas. So we basically ensure that our pricing innovations talk to their specific needs. Graduated offerings are also part of the menu for our customers. From where we are sitting, we believe that there is an extremely huge opportunity for us to operate, as well as our partners in this space, looking at about 0.62 million addressable market. Just the other day, sometime towards the end of last year, we signed a pact with EDCL, effectively cementing our commitment to work hand in hand with the government of Rwanda to help achieve its rural electrification targets. And this is a partnership that I have found to be very symbiotic as well as impactful. The addressable market for us is, it basically shows signs of scalability, and we are very bullish that just in the short time that we have operated here in Rwanda, which is just about 1.5 years, that the sort of installations we have done and the sales that we have done going forward, we believe that the trajectory is going to basically make for a viable business. And that's basically it from my end.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Godfrey, for the presentation. That was wonderful. Next, we will go to our final speaker, Emery.
Yep, I'm here. Tell me when you start seeing my screen.
Wonderful. We can see the screen. Just go to full screen from there, and we should be all set. That looks great. Perfect.
All right, perfect. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. It's a great honor, and it's wonderful to have the government and the private sector at the same time in this webinar. My name is Amaury Fasanakos. I'm the head of strategy at Bbox. A little bit about Bbox. Bbox is a solar company based in the UK. So far, we've electrified about 100,000 households and 30,000 households in Rwanda alone. One of our missions is to extend the grid and going to places where the grid can't go. There are just some places where it doesn't make sense, and this is where we see our role. One of the fundamental values of the grid that we're building is that we're not just selling solar home systems disconnected from the provider of the utility. We want to build a real grid that will be able to give the on-grid experience to off-grid households in Rwanda, but also all over Africa. To do this, we have to, of course, have a fairly affordable service to start with, and so we start with $5 per month and go all the way up to $20 per month. This is only possible if we sell, of course, electricity as a service. So we do long-term service agreements with our customers that allow it to be affordable, and that allow our customers to upgrade, to have lifetime services, and to have ongoing long-term relationships with us. To really give value to our customers, we collect about 17 million data points every single day. There is no grid in the world that is capable of doing this. And with this, we can actually give a proactive service to each of our customers, but also cater for their needs a little bit better. All of this data is not going to be very useful to the household if we don't have the retail presence on the ground that can actually go and repair, install the systems, and take care of our customers. In Rwanda, more specifically, we have 26 shops all over the country, all in rural areas, to be able to serve our customers. And this is a key enabler to serve the country of great population. Right now, where we are is we have digitized all of the value chain with our customers. We have our own customer management software we've built. We have all of our transactions that are done through mobile money, through the call center, and all of our clients automatically switched off. All of this enabled us to now be electrifying up to 6,000 households per month. That's actually more than what the government can do connecting to the grid. So I think this is a very important point, that the private sector can really be a help for the government of Rwanda and any other government in electrifying their population. And that's it for me. Thanks a lot for having me.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now we will hand things over to Yasmin for the first moderated Q&A.
Thank you very much, everybody. That was excellent, and I will echo Amare's point that it's been really excellent having representation from the ministry as well as stakeholders such as Power Africa and Energy for Impact, as well as private sector on this conversation. I'm really looking forward to the Q&A we're about to have. I know we're a little bit short on time, so I'm going to try to move this along as fast as we can so we have some time for attendee questions as well. I will ask some questions that came to mind as sort of the conversation went on with the different presentations. And I want to start with a question for Robert as well as Amar and Godfrey in terms of your respective perspectives on scaling access effectively in Rwanda. Obviously, we heard that there is a really strong and ambitious target for electrification in the country. So what are the incentives? How is the enabling environment components looking? How does a B-Box and OG fit in with the Ministry of Infrastructure's master plan for rural electrification? So any three of you, feel free to unmute your line and answer.
Sure, I can start if anyone is going to start right now. So first of all, I think that there is a great space where the government and the private companies can work, and part of it is to work on policies for tax and import duties that make sense, but also give, like they do through the current programs, to raise awareness about solar. And it's something that we definitely benefit from a lot, as solar is something that is known at every level of administration in Rwanda. I think those are two main points where the government helps private companies such as B-Box in working in Rwanda.
Great, thank you. Godfrey, did you want to chime in on the side of private sector as well, or Robert, perhaps, if you're able to hear us?
I think I'm also just going to echo what my colleague at B-Box has said. I think we enjoy a favorable relationship with the government of Rwanda, a relationship that we feel has become transparent and and very cordial. And so every time we run into issues, we always sit around the table and just try and hammer through what the solutions would be. We are at this point extremely excited with the fact that the government of Rwanda is committed to enabling us play in this space, as well as help it achieve its targets.
Great. Robert, are you able to hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please answer if you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just to again appreciate my colleagues who have responded, that confirming that the government of Rwanda is really supportive. As you have noticed, in a bid to diversify financing attractive private investments, the government of Rwanda, through the government arm, Rwanda Development Board, as an institution mandated to help the country's development through private sector participation, we work closely with the Rwanda Development Board to act just as one-stop center for investment. So it's not only to attract solar private companies in the country, but even other companies to invest in Rwanda. But to come back to what is being done by companies now already in the market, not only in Rwanda but in the region. Now, I think the technologies, the off-grid technologies, is a better way to go when it comes to soil installation in East African region, Sub-Saharan African region, including Rwanda. So by that, it's not about talking policies, good policies, but it is also to use the massive opportunity of having higher soil installation that we can also invest into deploying these off-grid technologies, and to use the good collaboration and the safe environment by Rwanda and other countries to increase the access levels in East Africa and Africa in general. In Rwanda, that is being done obviously. Our plan, the government of Rwanda's vision is to achieve universal access. But to achieve that, that's why we believe it is key to have a strong partnership with all stakeholders. And by doing that, I think it is evident that for the only last 2 to 3 years, we didn't have even 1% of the access through these off-grid technologies. But today we are talking about 7% through off-grid technologies. It is moving so fast. And also when it comes to affordability, the beneficiaries, Rwandans themselves, I think they understand the benefits. So there is a demand, there is a need by the population, and also there is a really good environment for private companies to do business, and big support of the government through the excellent leadership. So I think what I'm talking about is also spoken by my colleagues, presenters, Godfrey, B-Box, who are here in the country, my colleague, I think, to me, even if we have good policies, we have good strategies, but what is important is the private sector participation, and also having this opportunity given the business environment in the country. I think this is only what I wanted to echo and contribute. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Robert. Why don't I follow up on that, since we started talking about collaboration. I wanted to ask you specifically, since the Ministry of Infrastructure is doing all this work on rural electrification, I wanted to ask how this work in particular affects things like public facilities. You mentioned that a pretty significant portion of the health clinics in Rwanda have already been electrified. About half of schools have been. So when you work on nexus issues such as health, education, humanitarian relief perhaps, since Rwanda is a significant refugee host country, which ministries are you involved with, if any? Who takes charge depending on what kind of public facilities we're talking about? Can you speak a little bit more in terms of the public facility, larger infrastructure side of things?
Thank you so much for your good question. Well, Ministry of Infrastructure has a major 4 sectors: energy, water and sanitation, urbanization, and transport. As I have mentioned, as a ministry that has 4 main key sectors of that contributes to economic development of the country. We work with the Ministry of Finance that is in charge of planning and economic planning, and through that we have integrated plans that we work with all key stakeholders. And through private investment, Rwanda Government Board is a gate window, is a one-stop center that attracts investment. What we do is coordination through key stakeholders, and at the ministry level, it is easier to coordinate all initiatives that I have mentioned in the presentation, that we do not only plan for basic infrastructure, but we also connect with key stakeholders, ministries that are in charge of ICT, to have penetration of mobile, TV, access to mobile phones, and these are really key indicators when BBOX, for instance, those companies that are using technologies, people have access to finance through mobile banking and so forth. So in terms of coordination, I think at the ministry level, it is easier. At the government, has built institutions, and not only that, but the government decided to have a Rwanda Government Board act as one-stop center for any investment, whether big or small. So it becomes easier for coordination purposes, and also to support any initiative or any business viable proposal that is brought by any private company. And through that, of course, we are being encouraged by the innovation that is being taken forward by most companies bringing these kind of new technologies. And when it comes to collaborating with the government mandate obviously is also to bring close companies to the population. And by that, through all such initiatives that are being led by at RDB level, it has been so easy and faster, for instance, to register this quick or tremendous increase of off-grid technologies to achieve higher targets on off-grid technologies. So that's how the policy or the strategy is structured to ensure that by 2020 it is possible to achieve universal access once we have a good collaboration and communication channels that we've been started using online platforms that we can get the feedback from the beneficiaries and also the private sector, that they do not necessarily have to knock on every door in any public institution, but we can even be aggressive to understand the challenges of the beneficiaries, and also sit together, brainstorm, and see the innovative ways on how we can fast track the implementation of both grid connections and also off-grid technologies deployed by solar companies.
Thank you very much, Robert. I want to bring in Claire and Vivek to this conversation as well, since Power Africa and Energy for Impact serve somewhat similar roles in terms of sector-wide coordination in the country. So I wanted to ask you both how you see those coordinating efforts. Where do you see the sector moving forward? Does the private sector have a common voice or interest in the country? Who are you supporting in terms of different actors? If you could speak a little bit more as to the coordinating role that you both serve, that would be a great compliment, I think.
Sure. Thanks, Yasmin. I can go first. I think I can really only speak to Rwanda, but I think the coordination across the key stakeholders is really exemplary. The Ministry of Infrastructure coordinates an energy sector working group, and it has technical working groups that cover things like generation, access, and transmission separately, and those groups meet regularly and are open to all key stakeholders as well. USAID is obviously works closely with our other development partners here, including the EU, Belgium and the BTC, DFID, the World Bank, the Africa Development Bank, players like those, and we meet up regularly and coordinate our various support efforts and technical assistance to make sure that they're complementary and don't overlap. And then we have close coordination with our private sector partners as well. As I mentioned, Power Africa emphasizes close partnerships with companies on a one-to-one basis, and we have relationships with most of the main private off-grid players in the country, and meet with them regularly to understand their challenges and to help us tailor our advocacy approach and our technical assistance, and also to assist them and put them in touch with key investors and other stakeholders that might be able to offer them either financing or expertise in order to help them grow their businesses. And Rwanda also has an energy kind of association group called the Energy Private Developers, and they sort of convene the private sector and act on their behalf as an interface with the government. So I would say that I've been very impressed so far with the coordination, and I think that's critical in order to move the sector forward towards meeting the targets in a very short time frame. So yeah, only good progress to come out of this, I think.
Thank you, Claire. Vivek, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, like Claire mentioned, this is Senegrid is relatively a new initiative in the country. This even necessitates more increased collaboration, and there have been encouraging initiatives that are recently happening in the country, like there's NDEV, who is also supporting the private sector developers. The USAID is also supporting, and like it's coming up with the guaranteed funds, helping attracting FIs to explore to expose more credit in this mini-grid sector. And we're also working with local financial institutions and other multilateral FIs to see that where we all can actually, come together and collaborate in terms of helping these private sector developers, both in terms of kind of a technical assistance that they would require, and also, as I mentioned earlier, this financing gap is quite prominent in this sector, and that's where we especially require a lot of investors and FIs coming and playing a very vital role in this grid space, and that's where we've been discussing with all stakeholders that are active in the country.
Thank you, Doug. I want to quickly go back to private sector perspective on Rwanda. If Godfrey and Amari could chime in terms of what you see from a VBOX or an OG perspective in terms of the difference between working in Rwanda versus some of your other countries of operation. What are some of the key challenges you see, whether it's logistics, standards, tariffs, financial access, or opportunities? Because as we've heard so far, obviously the government is very much involved and very helpful in Rwanda. So if you could sort of do a quick comparison as to what you see in terms of differences or similarities in terms of your work across different countries, that would be great.
Sure, thanks. Well, work across a few countries in Africa, and I think some of the aspects that really define Rwanda as a good place to work in general, and especially for the off-grid industry, is threefold. On one side, there is a good tax framework that allows us to import without duties and VAT, and also just the clarity about what is going to be the framework when you import different containers of solar products. Second, I think there is the obvious about Rwanda, which is a country where doing business is extremely easy compared to other countries. You don't have the same challenges in terms of compared to other countries in terms of working with the government. The government is very proactive and very aligned with a investor-minded strategy. And last of all, I think that in Rwanda, logistics is a lot easier than in neighboring countries. For example, some of the countries with lesser roads, but also there is a good mobile money penetration. And I think the same for grid electric. Our business is just not feasible if we would have not access to digital money and financing in general.
Okay, thank you. Godfrey, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think you said it all. Maybe the only other thing I could add is the fact that in Rwanda, I think it is easy to find very good working relationships with the local community. When it comes to last mile distribution, we rely heavily on leveraging existing businesses, and the manner in which we lock down contracts with the existing businesses here in Rwanda is very straightforward, and I think that is a huge plus. I would also say, obviously, the government support as well as just logistics, the accessibility to the last mile is better than most of the countries around the region. Of course, our salespeople struggle a bit because walking up and down the mountains and hills is not easy. But outside of that, we're happy to be doing business here.
Great to hear. I'm cognizant of the time. I just want to finish by opening up a two-part question to everybody, so you can feel free to answer either one part or both parts or neither, depending on your area of expertise. But I wanted to make sure, in case the audience questions don't touch on these two, that we touch on both the quality assurance and standards, battling copycat products, ensuring the product quality across the board in country, as well as the gender aspect. Vivek's presentation obviously touched on that a little bit, but if anybody else wants to chime in terms of how your work may have a gender focus, whether you have targets or you're involving women in terms of both the business side of things as well as the end-use customer awareness, that would be great. So anybody feel free to chime in on either side.
Well, to chip in, I think silence means something. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
This is Robert coming back. Well, in terms of Nexus targets, in our Rwanda Sustainable Energy for All, as a country, I think we are number one when it comes to gender sensitive, having the highest targets of balancing women and men to provide solutions in different ways to build the country. But the reason for that, I think in the strategy, because as I have mentioned, the Ministry of Infrastructure considers bringing the basic infrastructure for the population. It means access to clean water, transport, health services, access to electricity, and here we also talk about access to clean cooking technologies and the quality of cooking options. This is where also we provide also training and skills, mainly for modern cooking stoves or factories that are producing pellets that used in modern cooking stoves, and also on better water management when it comes to providing clean water. Obviously, we do this working with private sector to have women to act in value chain for marketing the modern cooking stoves. Also, they are now they are entrepreneurs. Most of the companies, I think, when it comes to access clean technologies, cooking technologies, this is where mainly we have been having a national awareness campaign, not only just to say we can deploy off-grid technologies, but also to have a campaign on the use of clean cooking technologies. Where possible in modern model villages, as the same ministry, we are working on the rural extension strategy, but at the same time we are implementing the model villages as part of implementing the rural settlement policy to push or shift people living in scattered settlement into model or modern villages or group settlements. And by doing that, I think this is where the gender perspective comes on now working on the multi-year survey under the Star Bank to see the time that is spent on biomass, to see the baseline data on on-grid access, off-grid access for planning purposes, that now we can have a detailed integrated plan on how we implement all these government initiatives. And by doing that, then of course we also look at the incentives that the government considers to support the private sector, and through such good collaboration through wider sector working groups, technical working groups, we believe that the health conditions for the population will improve as much as we also have access to electricity. The children could now have a better ways of doing their school homeworks, and also on the indoor air quality from cooking in real remote areas or households could be at least tier 4 and above air quality standards by 2020. I think this is information that I wanted to share with you, despite I think a good platform that you've been able to give us, and together with my colleagues, I really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. Anybody else want to chime in quickly?
Yeah, just to say that one of our partners, the U.S. Africa Development Foundation, has launched a grant program this year specifically targeting women in energy in 3 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, including Rwanda, and that program is sort of in the assessment phase of applications, but it was initiated for the obvious reason that the gender issue is still a large one here and across the continent and the world. I think in the energy sector there is poor representation of women. So that's something that we're cognizant of and trying to work on. But I think there's so many more opportunities to bring this issue to the fore and for us to prioritize it here in Rwanda and elsewhere.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Great. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for the moderated Q&A right now. We'd like to get to some of the audience questions before we have to sign off in a few minutes here. We have a lot of questions that have come in, which we will not get to all of them, but don't worry, if you've submitted a question, we will be forwarding them to the panelists after the webinar concludes. So please be on the lookout for that. Our first question is for Claire. We have a few people asking, what is the procedure for green energy technology providers to participate in the Beyond the Grid program? And even more so, what ways would you recommend engaging USAID in Rwanda in general?
Well, the first port of call would be me, so you can contact me as the lead for Power Africa in Rwanda, and I can put you through to the right people in USAID in Rwanda as well. But Power Africa has a partnership team as well, focused specifically on providing support to private companies. So if you get in touch with me, I can then introduce you to my colleagues who will focus on setting up a conversation with you and talking about your interests and your needs, and then we can discuss how to become a member. We have over 140 members in Power Africa, and it's something we pride ourselves on, and we would like to expand that to as many companies as possible as well. So I think you probably shared my contact details on the webinar site, so just send me an email and I'll be happy to talk.
Thank you. The next question is for Godfrey, and perhaps Emery, you can chime in too. It's got a couple parts, but what would you say is the average power consumption of the first-time electricity user in Rwanda, and how would this predictably minuscule power consumption be a barrier for microgrid type installations, and are there ways around that?
I'll try answering this question a little bit, actually. It's an extremely good question, I think. And so the average power consumption of a typical household, that just get electricity for the first time, they'll be on average quite small, but quite a bit higher than what normal lanterns can afford. So it will be around 20 watt hours, and really it's easier to talk about the applications that most of those households will need. So a lot of those households that get a big system will take 3-4 lights as a minimum. Then on top of it, you'll have around 20% of our customers who will actually get a TV. One of the things that is really important when talking about energy access is that a lot of those customers that will receive through Tier 1 program in Rwanda some solar lanterns will still live in energy properties. They will not be able to have 3-4 lights, and they will never be able to upgrade to bigger appliances like a TV. And what we see is that a lot of our customers who start with 3-4 lights quickly need other appliances that are revenue generating, or they're just to connect them to the world through entertainment. And so that's something that is really important. People start with 3-4 lights, but they grow quickly to add on other appliances that either generate revenue or give them access to entertainment.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I'm afraid that's those are the only questions we'll have time to get to today, but as I mentioned, we will be sending your questions to the panelists once we conclude the webinar. On behalf of the Clean Energy Solutions Center, I'd like to extend a thank you to all of our expert panelists. Those were wonderful presentations, and also a thank you to our attendees for participating in today's webinar. We really appreciate your time and hope that there were some valuable insights for everyone. We also invite you to inform your colleagues and those in your networks about the Solution Center's resources and services, including no-cost policy support through our AskanExpert service. I invite you to check the Solution Center website if you'd like to view the slides or listen to a recording of today's presentations, as well as any previously held webinars. Additionally, you'll find information on upcoming webinars and other training events. We are also now posting the webinar recordings to the Clean Energy Solutions Center YouTube channel. Please allow about 1 week for that to be posted. And finally, I would kindly ask you to take a moment to complete a short survey that will appear when we conclude the webinar. And everyone, please enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope to see you again at future Clean Energy Solutions Center events. This concludes our webinar.